Hey YouTube, I need you to pay attention. If you have an abdomen like this, a dad bod or a pot belly, or if you don't and you don't want to get this, then you need to pay attention. Because I'm going to tell you what is going on here. You probably have no idea. You are mistaken about this. I bet you think this is fat causing this to push this out. We're going to do MRIs and CTs and take a look at what's going on in here. I'm going to explain it so you understand it. Because if you don't understand it and grasp what's happening, you're not going to be able to prevent this from happening. And this is going to be you. And this is not cool. This is weakness. Let me get that straight. If you're a girl or a woman and you think the dad bod is attractive, it is weakness. It is the muscles of this abdomen is so weak, they can't hold their guts in anymore. Young people, they may have a pot belly that sticks out like this, but here's the defining feature. They can suck it back in. If your abdomen doesn't suck back in anymore, you have sarcopenia, muscle weakness. We're going to get into why that happens. So watch this video. We're going to explain to you what you got to do to reverse this from happening so that you can correct your abdomen. Okay, most of you probably have an abdomen like this. This is somebody in their 30s. You see that line going out like this? They have some bulging going on in here, and it's relaxation of the abdominal musculature, okay? It's not so much, this person does not have a lot of fat in there, very little, but they have pretty much the same fat they had when they were younger. So what's happened? The influence of that fat, deep belly fat, and we'll get in, we'll show it to you, is inflamed their body so much, causing inflammation and deterioration of their body tissues that these muscles have become weak and they can't hold their guts anymore. So let's take a look at how that might look in a little bit older person, somebody who's in their 60s, big gut, and they went from here to here in 5 months. And I'm going to get into what they did to change that. And I'm also going to get into my own situation, okay? So here I am here, gut sticking out here, and I didn't have any visceral fat in here. I should show you my skin in there, but at this time I did not have any deep belly fat. So what was causing that to stick out like that was the formal visceral fat, the visceral fat that I formerly had in there, and that caused my muscles to get really weak. Visceral fat goes way faster than the consequences of visceral fat. You do not want visceral fat. You can get rid of visceral fat pretty fast, but the influence and the destructive nature of it goes off much slower. Young people stand up nice and straight. Old people have this curvature of the spine because of visceral fat, the influence of chronic disease causing relaxation. Look at my lunch lady arms, nice and soft. Here, I got much better tone, and look at that abdomen. So my muscle tonicity, my muscle weakness corrected. So the defining feature here of a gut that sticks out is weakness of the muscles. You can see my muscles are much better. And oh, by the way, when I got rid of visceral fat, not only did my muscles perform better, check out these veins, right? Look at my blood flow. That's why my pulses became visible all over. People aren't talking about it. Look at the dramatic change in my appearance. I'm upright. Geez, I don't know how, but the shape of my head looks better. Everything improves my performance in here by getting rid of that visceral fat, and then slowly the destructive influence of visceral fat is corrected. So stay tuned. I'm going to get into exactly what I did. Now, it was worse than that before. 3 years before. Dang, look at that. Oh my God, look at that. It's like a cantaloupe is in there. Good God. That thing was with me along so slowly, I didn't pay attention. I remember a colleague pointing to me and saying, "You got to fix that." And I was thinking, what's wrong with it? I had it so slow, I didn't pay any attention to it. But you probably got one too, and you get used to it. You shouldn't get used to it. That is weakness. That's sarcopenia. Get really, really upset about it. And if your abdomen looks nice and flat like this, get upset about this anyhow, because it's going to happen to you if you're not living properly. So I want to take you from here to here. And if you're already here, I want to keep you here so you never get to there, because there's a lot of disease that went all over my body between here, a lot of grief. And we're going to correct you to turn that around. So just prove that was me. There I am, okay? There's my face. Oh, God. And we're going to move right along, okay? That's the end of that. All right, so here's my picture again. And it kind of shows you what's going on, okay? So abdominal muscles, this visceral fat, and this is subcutaneous fat. Deep visceral fat is the deep stuff in here. So it literally wears out and decreases their performance, the capacity, the functionality of those muscles right there. But not only those muscles, but again, your arm muscles. And that's why when I got rid of my visceral fat, my muscles came back all over. I got much better tone. Instead of man boobs hanging down, I had nice, big, strong muscles that worked all over, and improvement in my vasculature all over. So visceral fat is really bad stuff. Let's look at visceral fat. Here it is in a 73-year-old guy, okay? 73 years old. He's filled with all this black stuff. This is visceral fat. So this is a slice. This is his back. This is his front, okay? His belly button is right there. So this is front part of him, and all that black is visceral fat deep within his abdomen. So we can see that. Well, let's take a look at how this looks from the side, okay? Look how wide he is, because his musculature can't contain it anymore, so he's bloating out the sides. That is not an attractive figure, okay? So again, you get this suboptimal performance of your muscles in your abdomen, but if they're not performing properly in your abdomen, your gut is sticking out, your muscles are starting to be suboptimal everywhere. So this is a bad process going on in this 73-year-old guy and a lot of chronic disease. Now, let's look at this guy's not so bad. His visceral fat is modest, so it's not quite as bad. But he's 60 years old. So his abdomen, his abdomen has not had as much influence from this visceral fat. So his abdomen is pretty flat. It's not bulging out as much. 13 years later, he's going to look like that other guy from the influence of that visceral fat. And again, we can see the relaxation that's starting to occur is not as bad as it was before, but it's already in there because it's been there for a while. Well, let's look at this in cross-section, okay? So this is the image in cross-section, and we can see the visceral fat here. These are the core muscles, the oblique muscles, and the abdominis rectus, and that's a cross-section of that visceral fat, so you can take a look at it. And this is in a 48-year-old, not as much visceral fat, and there's not as much. So the important thing for you to pay attention to is two things. The quantity, how much visceral fat you have, is worse. But even more, this is my opinion because I've not seen it studied, and it needs to be studied. I'm looking at it now. I am studying this now, and I hope to publish on this, but it is the influence over time of this stuff. You can have a little bit over a long period of time and have more damage than you have to have a ton of this stuff, okay? So it's how much you have and how long you've been exposed of this visceral fat. So we're learning a lot more. Look at this nice abdomen, very straight in this 48-year-old, because it hasn't yet caused as much influence and relaxation in the abdomen, okay? So we can see this person here has a lot of visceral fat, but it hasn't been present long enough to cause as much of a problem for that person. So let's look at this abdominal CT and look at this visceral fat protruding here. And this is the same 43-year-old, and again, has not, it's accumulated, but it hasn't been as present long a period of time as, say, a 73-year-old. But here's a guy who's 69 years old, okay? Look how flat his abdomen is. It's because he's had very little visceral fat all his life, okay? And so his visceral fat has been so small that it has really not worn out his muscles. So he looked really good. And by the way, he had very little medical conditions, very little medical conditions. So that visceral fat had just not been present, exposing his tissue and his body to the inflammatory nature of chronic disease from these cytokines that get released from this visceral fat in the deep abdomen. So this was his CT cross-section of his abdomen, his belly button, and you can see he doesn't have a lot of that blackness compared to some of those other images, okay? So let's take a look at a a screenshot off of the internet that I grabbed. Okay, so it's interesting when you do these anatomy, abdominal anatomy off of Google and take a look at this. They'll point to everything. Okay, they'll all the structures are identified, but the biggest thing in there is this black stuff here, this visceral fat. They never say anything about. Here they are talking about the potential site of Spigelian hernia, potential site of rectus sheath hematoma, rectus potential site for an abdominis rectus strain, potential site for lumbar hernia. Who cares about these stupid little conditions when you got this deadly, highly inflammatory mass here? They don't say butkus about this visceral fat. You see, it's in, go ahead, go to Google, abdominal anatomy CT, abdominal anatomy MRI, and see if you can, when you find all these arrows pointing everything, see if you can find a single one that ever goes to the largest substance in this abdomen and identifies what the heck it is. I mean, it is really thought of as a living gland. It's just secretory, a disease-causing gland inside your body that you want to get the heck out of it. So I point this out because the irony of doctors aren't trained in it. We're not trained in medical school. They're not trained in residency. And radiologists may know that it's visceral fat, but they don't report it at all. It's just shocking. I even have one radiologist argue with me, why bother reporting? Oh my God, just crazy. So let's look at this list of things. So you can screenshot this, okay? And we're going to go through these points, okay? And these are seven things that you can do to correct your visceral fat and correct sarcopenia and the muscle weakness that's causing your gut to stick out, okay? So you want to cut out all processed carbs. You want healthy, 100% grass-fed meat, grass-finished meat. Eat some liver and organs, whole vegetables. If you're going to eat vegetables, I personally eat a carnivore diet, and the only vegetables I eat are fermented vegetables. I don't eat regular vegetables. But if you're going to eat vegetables, make sure they're whole, not processed in some kind of funky green, strange drink, or processed vegetables, some other form. And you want to eat fermented foods, kefir, kvass, kimchi. That should be a comma there. Somebody thought it was kimchi yogurt. Although I tried, they said they sounded horrible. I mixed it together. I actually rather liked it. So yogurt, plain unsweetened. You want full fat, grass-fed, and non-homogenized. So you want to practice regular fasting. You want to do OMAD, extended fasting. This is the Olympics. People, pay attention. Extended fasting. You're going to learn more and more about it. Extended fasting is super important. And then I used to say high intensity exercise. You want to do maximum intensity exercise. So no longer a high intensity. It's maximum intensity effort. Very best thing of all is sprinting. You don't sprint unless you are running as fast as you possibly can. If you're not running as fast as you possibly can, you're just running fast. But you're not sprinting. Sprinting is maximum effort, okay, maximum speed. Weightlifting, resistance, next best thing. And gym rings, body weight exercises, those are all great too. You want to embrace stress hormesis, okay? I'm going to show you a beautiful graph on this, pull this together for you, okay? So you want to do a dry finish sauna. You want to do cold showers, cold immersions. You want to use blood flow restriction bands to reduce the blood flow to your skeletal muscle and to basically make it more difficult to exercise, sort of like exercising in altitude, altitude training, donate blood, optimize your microbiome. Encyclopedias could be filled about the microbiome, how to do that. But fall in love with the microbiome, study it. Fall in love with nitric oxide, study it, find out what increases it and how to track it. Oxytocin, you want to optimize your sleep, sunshine, vitamin D. And I'm not talking supplements. I'm talking make your body make your own vitamin D, okay? Same thing with all these things. Don't buy exogenous forms of these things. You want your body to do the job. What your body makes dust anything that's sold in a bottle or a container or a needle or whatever else. You want to make your body do these things. And then track your sodium levels by tasting your sweat, okay? When you sweat, you just simply take a little finger of your sweat and stick it in your mouth and taste it and see how salty it is. If it's weak as water, you need to take salt. If it's super salty, then you need to drink water. End of story. Makes it simple. Nobody's talking about this on the internet, how to optimize your sodium levels. There's books written all about salt, and the authors never figure out how to tell people how you can track this so easily. Taste your sweat. Don't be a lightweight and afraid to taste your sweat. If you're afraid to taste your sweat, you probably shouldn't even be watching this video. You're not that concerned about your health. You're concerned about something else. But if you want to optimize your health, you got to taste your sweat to figure out how salty it is and whether you got to add salt to your diet or drink water. You want to optimize your microbiome, track your blood sugars, insulin sensitivity, your oral microbiome, pay attention to microbiome throughout your gut, on your body, and in your mouth, gums, teeth, and tongue. All right, let's look at this. Best thing to do, cut out processed foods, how fast you eliminate visceral fat, okay? Week 0, a huge amount of visceral fat there, and the fat is in their muscle too. By the time week 35 comes along, look how much reduced visceral fat they have in there. And by the way, the fat out of their muscles have now gone away too. So those muscles are now performing better. You see why that, when you got fatty infiltrates in your muscles, they're all weak and inflamed. That's why they can't hold your guts in. See, guys, guts are sticking out, belly bulging there. Now it's nice and flat. You see that? That's what goes on in everybody who cuts out processed foods, okay? Do these things. By the way, this guy did not exercise 1 minute. If you're some gym rat who thinks you're going to exercise yourself, or a soccer mom, you're going to exercise yourself out of a big dad bod and things like that, you are going to be in for a lot of trouble, a lot of effort and work. This guy did it without exercising 1 minute, just cutting out processed foods. So that's a great illustration of why you want to do it. Now, sarcopenia, let me tell you about the dirty secret sarcopenia. Your muscles decline, okay? Oh, well, maybe I'll be weak, I'll just have weak muscles. You're not going to be able to stand up. You're going to end up in one of these places, a nursing home, okay? First thing, it's a cane. The next thing is a walker. The third thing is a wheelchair. Eventually gets so bad you can't even get into a wheelchair because you're too weak. And oh, by the way, all along, you're so weak, you can't get yourself in and out of a car. The thought of getting off the couch and going to your car to go have lunch with friends, your grandchildren or your great-grandchildren is too much work. So you end up in a nursing home and you're not enjoying life. So you got to get your muscles back, okay? Do that list, okay? Hopefully you guys screenshot them and you're doing these things. Now let me tell you about other muscles that fall apart. Nobody talks about dirty little secret. Okay, I'm sorry, but I'm going to ruin every trip for the rest of your life going to a nursing home. And here it goes. But you need to know the reality because I'm going to warn you and nobody else is. And all the ER doctors, shame on you. And your primary care doctors, shame worse on you guys, because you know what ends up happening to these old people? They lose control of their bowel and bladder. Nice cloth seats, vinyl seats. Why? Because they wear diapers in nursing homes, because they can't keep their stool in. Their muscles are too weak to keep their stool and their urine in, so they got diapers, and it smells, and it's all over the place. I know, gross. Oh my God, why am I listening to this man? You're listening to me because I'm warning you so this doesn't happen to you. Sarcopenia is this huge scourge. Nobody talks about it because nobody has answers. The answers are living healthy, okay? Follow this video. Why in the world wouldn't you pass this on to somebody else you care about so that they can keep this from happening, okay? You need to work on the stuff I'm talking about in this particular videos to keep that from happening. Now, I talked to you about fasting, okay? This is a picture of this guy, and from here to here, it looks like it might have taken a long time. This is just a 10-day fast. This guy changed. I wish anybody watching this video knows who he is. I'd like to talk to him. I got this on the internet, but I don't know who it was. But look how much he changed his face in 10 days. Look at his eyes, how much whiter they are. So one of the things that happens, the mitochondria start functioning better during a fast. His skin is better perfused, and of course he lost a lot of inflammation in his face. It just looks better. So things that improve the appearance of your face oftentimes are better. And we're not talking cosmetics, okay, or plastic surgery. We're talking about lifestyle changes. So fasting, extended fasting, is a great way to optimize. Now remember I told you about high intensity exercise and heat shock proteins and stress hormesis. Here's where it is. Okay, this is a great graph. Let me explain to you. This is where you improve from here to here. This is where you deteriorate from here to here. This is baseline, okay? You're either going to get better or you're going to get worse. Hormesis helps you to get better. If you do too much of it, though, you start declining, okay? And then it becomes a toxin. It basically causes too much problems. This is where you get into like distance running, okay? And people cause too many, it causes too much high durational exercises. It's too much hormetic influence, and it causes a deterioration, and you get advanced sarcopenia. The end state of distance runners are emaciated muscle atrophy of their muscles. So you don't want that. You want to do high intensity exercise like a sprinter, okay? And short-lived bursts, okay? So you want to maximize hormesis. So this is a great graph. Concentrate on it. You want hormetic exercise, heat shock proteins, cold shock proteins, saunas, cold immersions, sunshine, fasting, high intensity exercise like sprinting and lifting weights. Okay, well that's it. I hope this video helps to pull it together, the big picture, and how to optimize those things. Now, if you're very motivated, I'd be interested in potentially working with you and teaching you how to optimize those things. Otherwise, if you aren't interested in working with me, or you can't work with me, you can't come to Minneapolis. I don't work with people who aren't willing to come to me, because that means you're not that serious about taking care of your health. But if you are, consider working with me. If you're not, you're going to have to figure out these things on your own, okay? And the way to do it, because I want to end the biggest scourge of America affecting humanity is chronic disease. So you're just going to have to fall in love with these things and study the microbiome, nitric oxide, oxytocin, sleep, sunshine, all these things. Study them. Google them, read about them, get books on them, listen to podcasts, and read studies on them. And that's how you'll get better at these things. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please give it a like and consider subscribing. Like you subscribe to my channel so I can get more subscriptions and be able to pass this on to more people. And I want to be able to share this content with other people, so please share with others. If you know somebody who's got a dad bod, who's got a pot belly, whose muscles are starting to decline, warn them about this before they end up using a walker or in a wheelchair or bedridden or in diapers. Suffer the indignity of a poor lifestyle. We're meant to live a good, long, healthy life. So please share this to other people. Thank you very much for allowing me to be able to share this content. And I hope you enjoy it. And as always, I welcome comments, questions, and your participation in my YouTube channel. Thank you very much. And I'll see you on another optimizing video down the road.